All right, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of The Teardown. My name is Jeff Gluck. I'm along with my coworker, Jordan Bianchi, a man who hands out fortune cookies for Halloween. And we are here at a very scary scene, Martinsville Speedway, where I don't know exactly how we're going to do this podcast, where we're going to do this podcast. Our heads are spinning like crazy. We have just gotten done with all the post-race stuff. We've just heard from Ryan Blaney. We've just heard from Elton Sawyer from NASCAR to try to figure out what the heck just happened. So I don't know where to start, but maybe before we dive into all the controversy stuff, let's start with somebody who deserves a lot of credit, and it's a shame that his win is going to be overshadowed in a way, but Ryan Blaney.
So good.
What a performance. What a clutch, big-time performance from Ryan Blaney. 1 week after it looked like, he was going to be ruining the finish of Homestead for the entire offseason. A chance at his championship defense gone by making a mistake in the last corner and allowing Tyler Reddick to have the high line. Everybody all week saying, what were you thinking? What were you doing? He answered the questions on a midweek Zoom about all the, he went into detail, didn't run from it, didn't hide from the mistake he made. Comes out at Martinsville in a must-win situation for him. No way to point your way in, and he gets it done, Jordan, to launch himself back into the championship four, giving Penske two drivers in championship four. What? How did that happen? And the last two most recent champions, by the way, are in this race. So Ryan Blaney gets it done, Jordan.
Drive of his career. What really impressed me was really good on the long runs. And that's the secret to Blaney, is he's one of the best drivers on long runs. Manages his tires really well. Doesn't lose a lot of speed. You saw it really pay off here today. Over that last run, restarted ninth, kind of fell back a spot or two. And then once everything settled down, just started chipping away. And he's about 6 seconds back. And just the longer the run goes, the better he gets. And he just keeps knocking them down. Wasn't overdriving, didn't make mistakes. It wasn't like he was pushing people out of the way. It was a clean drive relatively. I know there was some contact there with the 5 and the 9 a little bit, but again, nothing egregious by any means. Just a really smart, patient drive. Really impressive. And to put himself in the championship 4, and I know we're not kind of looking ahead a little bit, but now a wide open championship where the heavy favorite, I think, was the 20 because of his past success at Phoenix earlier this year. And I think you just have to throw Larson in there as a sign of respect and how good he is. So the two championship co-favorites are now out. And you talk about Penske. They got 2 guys in there. They have been so good on these kind of, flattish tracks this year. That's where they've had a lot of their speed here, North Wilkesboro, Iowa. It's hard not to think that they are going into this race extremely confident in thinking that they could win 3 championships in a row. But Blaney, again, just so impressive. And a week where he got beaten up a lot and a lot of self-doubt, a lot of, analyzing of woulda, shoulda, coulda, what could I have done differently? Why didn't I do this? And people pointing fingers. Like, this is clutch, man. This is clutch in every sense of the word.
Yeah, and you could say, well, Blaney, he gets in and, he doesn't have the time that Logano has spent on Phoenix. But guess what? Penske works very well together. And so Logano having 2 weeks to prepare for Phoenix just basically gave the information to Blaney to allow him to have 2 weeks to prepare. All the work that Logano's been doing, He can just shift it right to Blaney. So Blaney suddenly becomes a very serious threat and somebody to consider big time here. I cannot believe the Final Four, how it turned out, because as you said, all summer long, I've been on the Christopher Bell bandwagon. I have a whole case laid out for why he's going to win Phoenix, why he's a championship favorite. He was 20th on the last restart at Phoenix in the spring. He came from all the way through the field and he won by over 5 seconds. He almost won Gateway until he had some engine issue. Then he goes to New Hampshire, the most similar track to Phoenix, and he dominates and he wins there. And there was nothing to stop Bell if he made it to Phoenix. He comes into this race in the best position of anybody who hadn't won, with his points cushion. But he did say, I was talking to all these guys yesterday. And even Bell was saying, I feel like I have to win. And part of that was if somebody wins from below, which people expected. I mean, it was almost expected that like Blaney or Elliott could win this race. And ultimately, that was the two that you were most worried about for much of the night. And if that happened, it was just going to come down to a points thing between Byron and Bell, Larson if he got up there. And ultimately, what happens? Christopher Bell has a loose wheel, and he has to start at the tail. He ends up getting lapped because if you start at the tail, ultimately on a long green flag run with track position the way it is at Martinsville, it takes some time to go through the field. You're going to get lapped. Well, he gets pinned a lap down. I believe it was on the Bowman caution when Bowman spun Hocevar. Two of the Hendrick cars stayed out, pinned Bell a lap down, prevented him from taking the wave around. I think that was the time. So Bell is trying to get the free pass, ultimately could not get it. So he could only move up so far. Meanwhile, you have, Larson's trying to hang on. Blaney's coming up through the long run. Elliott's up there. And the way it all goes down at the end was unfortunately quite the controversy. I don't know, where do you want to start this?
Think like it's controversial, but it's also clear cut in my opinion. Like,
what's clear cut?
The penalty to Bell.
Okay, well, all right, well, so you're saying, okay, so you're saying that because what NASCAR said afterwards is, so that NASCAR takes 27 minutes. Let's set the scene first, and then I guess we can, maybe people need a quick refresher on the facts as we know them, right? Why do you close your eyes?
Nothing. Keep going.
Are you already frustrated?
No, I'm good. Keep going.
Okay. So as the laps are winding down, like 10 to go, Byron cannot lose one more spot because Byron is hanging on by 1 point and Bell has the tiebreaker. So even though Bell can't gain a lot because he's trapped a lap down, Byron cannot afford to lose any spots, but Byron is fading. It was almost starting to look reminiscent of last year where he cannot hang on and other cars are coming up. But instead of passing him, it just so happens that Chevy teammates were behind him. You have Austin Dillon, you have Ross Chastain. And it was clear, even before we heard the radio chatter, these guys were not going to pass him.
No.
Lap after lap, they just get in line. They're riding behind him. They're clogging up.
I was going to say they didn't just ride behind him. They rode 2 by 2. They effectively formed a blockade.
Yes,
it wasn't like they were just like single file because then someone could have gone around them. They literally almost blocked the track.
They clogged up the track lap after lap, and nobody was going to get by, and they weren't going to pass him, right? No. They had clearly decided they weren't going to pass him. Now it comes out, NBC plays the radio chatter during that 27-minute delay as they're trying to figure out everything after the race. And, obviously both are told, hey, listen, the situation, whatever it is, he's in by 1 point. And they didn't have to say, I don't know that we specifically heard them say, don't pass. I don't know that we said that, but, or that we heard that, but they were saying he's in by 1 point. He's in by 1 point. They are smart. And they said, okay, we're not going to do that. So is that race manipulation? We'll find out. We don't know how NASCAR feels about that yet. We also don't know how NASCAR feels yet about Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace was the only car that Christopher Bell could have passed coming to the end there because he was trapped a lap down. He was the second car 1 lap down. The first car 1 lap down was Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace was significantly ahead of him on the track, but ends up slowing down, says he has a problem of some kind or whatever, right? And just in going into the last turn, the last lap, Christopher Bell passes him. Well, here's now where I guess the controversial part, at least to you, or you say it's not controversial, happens. Bell makes the pass on Bubba Wallace, but in doing so, he's in quite a hurry. He seems to sort of lose it coming out of turn 3, kind of slides up in the marbles and hits the wall, like in sort of this desperation move. And then it seems like he gasses it up and then just rides the wall. Now, did he have an intentional wall ride move? We know that wall rides are now illegal after the Ross Chastain thing. They let that go for one more race after the Ross Chastain thing in 2022. They let that go for Phoenix. It was legal. Then in the offseason, they said, this will not be legal anymore. It's a safety thing. And we will judge this as a safety violation if this happens again. So, You look at the replay. This is what NASCAR said that they looked at exclusively for the 27 minutes. NASCAR says all they were looking at is whether he rode the wall or not. You feel that's clear cut. Why?
So when I initially saw it, I'm like, oh, he didn't really hit the wall that hard. He didn't ride the wall that hard. I thought he hit the wall and kind of came off it quick. I went back and watched it a dozen so times. Very clearly rides the wall through into 3 or off of 3 through 4, off of turn 4 to that. That's a penalty. Whether he did it intentionally or not, you cannot ride the wall. It's clear cut on that. He rode the wall. It's really obvious to me when you look at it. It's a penalty. It's not about intent. It's about whether you do it or not. And he clearly rode the wall through the corner and did it. And the thing is, he didn't even need to do it at the time because he would just pass. He was going to pass Bubba, and it would have been fine. But once he got into the wall, he didn't get off the wall. He rode it all the way through. That is a penalty.
So I was a bit surprised that NASCAR said they were only looking at that and not looking at the entire situation as a whole in terms of all the race manipulation. In my opinion, race manipulation that went on. Again, we'll have to see what NASCAR views it. But when you have, first starting with the Chevy blockade, so to speak, this was such a blatant example where clearly these guys could pass and they were choosing not to. Whether they were told not to or not, they are choosing not to pass so that their guy, their teammate, cannot lose a spot. Now, you can argue this is somewhat common. This somewhat happens in the playoffs. And this actually happens in the playoffs even before the current system. Even in the 10-race chase. I remember being at NASCAR Scene magazine, and it was openly discussed at the time. I remember talking to like Greg Biffle when he wasn't in the chase one year, and he's like, oh, yeah, I gave Carl a spot. And Casey Mears talking about, oh, yeah, I gave my Hendrick teammates a spot, like at the end of some New Hampshire race and stuff. Like it was just sort of commonplace at the time. This is pre-Clint Boyer 2013, right? Ever since Spingate, I think the way everybody looked at race manipulation and the definition of that all changed. And now there's a lot more sensitivity and paying attention to it, paying attention to what people say, what their intentions were. And so you have the Chevy thing, which I don't think that's as egregious as the Bubba part of this personally. I do think it's not great. And I'm wondering how NASCAR will react to it if they do anything. But the Bubba thing there, because that's him slowing down to give a spot. I mean, he can say, oh, my car was broken. He slowed down to give him a spot. His last lap there, I pulled it up somewhere. It was a 24-second something lap where everybody was running 21-second laps.
4-second differential.
So he considerably slowed down. And of course, he can say for plausible deniability, oh, there's something wrong with my car.
He said with 3 laps to go, he thought he had a flat tire.
3 laps to go, he thought he had a flat tire.
And then in the last lap, and then I asked him specifically what happened on the last lap. He says, I went loose or something broke. I was nursing it. Then Bell tried to slide me, and I'm like, brother, I'm trying to bide our time and not crash and bring on a caution, jumble up the whole field. That was it.
And so this is where it gets sticky.
A little.
Because I actually understand where NASCAR, where Elton is coming from in this sense. What he said was, because I asked him, well, if Bell didn't do the wall ride, does that mean that he's in? And Elton sort of did not want to answer that. He said that's a hypothetical, and that they did not look at that part of it yet. They did not look at the 23. They did not look at the 3 and the 1 yet. So it sounds to me like what they're saying is, all right, we have a messy situation here. They're in the scoring tower, right? We've got to sort this out. We've got to get this right. This is my interpretation of what he said, reading between the lines, right? And to them, I think they determined in the scoring tower, if we can determine a rule was violated here, the Christopher Bell instance, then the case is over. Then the race manipulation stuff, we can look at that closer during the week when we have more time. We can do our Tuesday debrief or whatever with the rules, and they can come out with a penalty. But in order to get this situation resolved as quickly as possible, their immediate question was there an illegal wall ride or not? Their answer was yes. Therefore, Bell was penalized, and he was put down to the last car 1 lap down. So I think that was 22nd. He was put to 22nd instead of 18th. That cost him enough points to miss it. He ends up missing it by 4 points. So that cost him 4 points, and that was the margin he missed by. So I guess that's what they're going to go with for now. But here's my question, and this is why I say it gets messy. The way I look at it, I mean, Bell clearly he didn't have to do that, right? Like that move where he's going by Bubba, he kind of just got himself.
It looked like he panicked. He already passed Bubba. Bubba was going to let him go.
Right.
That was it. So
right.
that was the spot. And I don't want to speak for him, but it looked like he panicked or didn't know the situation or whatever, and he just said, "I'm going for it." That's what it looked like. He didn't need to do that. Like if he would have just slowed down, Bubba was going to slow down too.
Right. Bubba was giving him the spot, and he somehow got himself into the wall or got loose or got in the marbles or wrecked or whatever. And then, his mistake, I guess, was oh my gosh, I'm assuming sort of panic in the moment. And so he just gassed it up and tries to get the finish. It appeared to be a wall ride. The problem is, I do believe that he didn't have the intention to do a wall ride, but it looked like it was.
But it doesn't matter.
And so, but here's my question, and I want you to answer this, Jordan, because I don't know what you think about this. If that doesn't happen, if he just passes Bubba, he just gets by him because Bubba gives him the spot, what happens? What does NASCAR do? Because clearly the Bubba thing was race manipulation, but there's also some degree of race manipulation.
Yeah, but doesn't just wash it basically, washes itself out because
you think that's a wash?
Yeah, I mean you're going to argue.
So who do you put in?
You
put Bell in?
Or you just say, oh, you know what? You did this. Finish is what the finish is. Bell's in.
Wow. See, I think that would have been
because you can't penalty. So what are you going to do? So you can't. So here's the other thing you got to remember though, is that Byron really didn't do anything wrong in this, right?
Right, but you're taking him out.
But if you're going to argue like, well, Chevy did this, so the thing I look at is there's three elements of this. Bell got in. There's the Wallace thing of whether he deliberately slowed down, and whether he should have, whether he was actually the car was broken or not. There was Bell's wall ride, and then there was the Chevy blockade. Out of all of this, though, the one person that didn't do anything wrong was William Byron.
I agree.
And so, like the roundabout way, the right person got in because he didn't technically do anything wrong. And it doesn't sound like from what I've heard of the audio and from who I've talking to, it doesn't sound like there was any orders or anything from from Hendrick Motorsports to manipulate this. They
didn't need to.
They didn't need to. Their hands are relatively clean in this. And so, I don't know how you could penalize Byron in this situation and be like, "Oh, sorry, you're out." But if you're upset by the Chevy thing and say, "Listen, whether Hendrick was involved or Byron was involved or not, still the end result was it helped Byron." And also, you've got over here with the Toyota thing going on. You just say they cancel each other out. We're moving on. The results are the results.
See, I think that would be way worse. I think that would be horrible look because to me, I don't think they wash each other out. I don't think they're exactly the same thing. I think Bubba giving up a spot, like slowing down to give someone a spot on the track, is worse than just riding behind somebody and not passing. You could say it's splitting hairs.
No.
Really?
It's not just they weren't just riding behind him. It was they literally they were two cars, two Chevys, the 1 and the 3 side by side, blocks basically effectively. And let's throw Hocevar in there too, by the way, because he was certainly in that circle there. Because Keselowski tried to go by them and he couldn't. They weren't just going single file where hey, we're going to leave you the top line, which is going to suck, but you'll figure it out. No, they effectively blocked the track. That's a whole different ball game of that. And we're going much slower than everybody else. You're going to talk about manipulation and Bubba Wallace slowing down. Go look at the lap times from the 3 and the 1 on those last laps. It was crazy. We were literally laughing as we were watching this happen live, how slow they were going off of the turns. You talk about race manipulation, that's also race manipulation. It's just in a different form.
Well, I think that what would have been a bad look about it is ultimately the guy would have gotten in with the last spot by somebody slowing down to give him a position, which goes back to 2013.
But okay, it doesn't even go back that. We see this all the time. This happens all the time on super speedways. Hey,
Jordan, this does not happen all the time. In fact, the last time this happened was the Roval, where Cole Custer slowed down to give Chase Briscoe a spot in 2022 in an elimination race. And here's what NASCAR did. NASCAR penalized Cole Custer and Mike Shiplett, as crew chief at the time, It was a $100,000 fine for Custer. They docked him 50 points, driver and owner points. Mike Shiplett also got suspended $100,000 and is suspended indefinitely from NASCAR after he had ceded the position to his teammate going into that chicane on the backstretch, now NASCAR did not take Briscoe out of the next round, but they penalized Custer and his team severely for what happened there. So that's what I think could very well happen with the Bubba situation here, because I really think that NASCAR does not want people giving positions. I do think it's very possible that they may penalize Dylan and Chastain's teams in some form. I don't know how.
It doesn't matter as long as Byron's in. That Chevy's going to like happily eat that. They'll happily write that.
I get
check.
that, but
back to my point. This does happen on super speedways. You literally do have all of the time in the regular season, or specifically in the playoffs mainly, but it does happen in the regular season of like, so-and-so is going to be your pusher. He is not going to pass you. We saw this with Renslov at Daytona in August.
This is not a super speedway, though.
It's not. My point is this happens where there is specifically somebody's like role is to stay behind a car and they are instructed to don't pass somebody. If you want to talk about race manipulation, that's a definition of like, you're not to pass. You're supposed to concede the spot. We see it all the time where guys are out of the playoffs at Talladega and they are specifically there to push their teammate and play a wingman.
But aren't you making my point then? Because I'm saying the riding behind and not passing is not as bad as completely giving somebody a spot, slowing down to let them pass you.
Well, I think slowing down and effectively blocking the whole track like that is you're crossing.
But you just said riding behind.
I'm talking about the Wallace situation.
Okay.
And like we see people give spots, like it does happen. I mean, we saw in 2016 at Talladega where the JGR cars literally ran in the back and they were there to work with Hamlin all day. You know, we saw it at Talladega before where Logano's locked into the next round and his sole focus was to push Brad Keselowski to victory that day. You know, it does happen like that where you basically have to concede, like, I'm here to finish second because I need to push this guy. And in a roundabout way, this is what Wallace's role was, is you need to give up this spot because we need it for the greater good.
So here's the thing. This is obviously not a good look for anybody. I mean, it would almost, I tweeted it as they were, trying to decide this all. They should just do a final three and take both out, right? Now,
I suggested they should just put them back on the track and just do like a mini 5-lap race.
I mean, you can't make such a mockery of the sport like that. But, there's got to be something. There's got to be something that has to come out of this where, some improvement gets made. And this is just in the moment. I'm sure there's going to be lots of talk about this week. I'm sure my opinion may change once I get more information, or I'm going on DBC tomorrow. Oh, so we'll have to hear what Freddie says on DBC tomorrow.
Poor Freddie.
We'll have to hear what Brett says. Brett's been involved in something like this before.
Has he?
So this will be a very lively DBC, I can tell you that. But the best suggestion I've seen so far, Joel Edmonds on Twitter, obviously former Biffle Almirola spotter. Joel Edmonds said, this might be the time when spotters are no longer allowed to tell drivers what the points position is. And I thought, damn, that actually makes a lot of sense. Because think about this, right? Let's say you were allowed to only tell your driver where they were in points, but you can no longer tell teammates and manufacturer people, oh, this guy needs one spot. This guy's in by one, because you heard all the radios were lit up, right? Like Joey Logano's spotter kept telling him, okay, 12's in the lead. We don't need a caution right now. 12, they kept saying this. What if they just policed them saying, all right, spotters, listen, we're not telling guys points anymore, except your own points. So you need this many spots. And then you wouldn't have, nobody would know. None of the drivers are going to know what the point situation is. They might be able to guess of who's winning, but it could help clamp down on some of this little mid-pack racing. Like if Bubba doesn't know that it's 1 point that Bell needs, right? I'm sure, Bubba was told it's 1 point. So that's just a fact. Oh, he's out by one. So Bubba then says, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm assuming based on his actions, right? So if he doesn't know that, he might think Bell's in. He might not do it, So I think that reduces the chance, and it also gives NASCAR something to just say, all right, hey, listen, you told them this, and so that's where that's going to be illegal.
You want a really easy way how you can circumvent this?
Okay.
I have code words.
Well, I mean, they would try to figure out if there was some code word or something.
So you're not going to have NASCAR decipher. If I say lemonade and lemonade, lemonade 20's behind you, which you can say because you have to inform who's behind you. 20 behind you, lemonade.
You don't think that people could just listen to that and go, "What the heck was that?" And then all of a sudden the car slows down after you heard lemonade. They wouldn't figure that out.
You have to. Just because somebody says something doesn't, you have to link it together. You just can't say what you said.
Well,
I mean,
that's fair. So if that's not going to work, what else will work? Because this can't happen. It cannot happen. You cannot have this happen. This was a really bad look. This was ugly on multiple layers, multiple manufacturers.
But this is and I'm not disagreeing with that. But this is NASCAR in modern day. Like we see this all the time now. We talk about super speedway racing and how super speedway racing has changed because what has happened over the last, since the 2016 Daytona 500. Now it's become a manufacturer-driven thing where the teams get together beforehand. They have very strict orders of you only are going to work with us. We know, that Chevy has before has lit up their drivers for not working together, for helping other drivers. This has become a manufacturer-driven sport in a lot of respects. Because if you look at it, and I think this goes back to really years, NASCAR teams were really largely individual. Yeah, they were Chevy or Ford, but back in the day, Hendrick was Hendrick. And then you had the Childers cars, and they had all their own engine stuff. And there was no technical alliances. There was no data sharing. There was no common engine supplier. Now, all the Toyotas, what do? They all have the same engine. They largely have the access to the data. Same with the Fords and same with the Chevys. This is NASCAR today, where everybody, yes, you've got all these teams, but really you're all under one banner and you're all working together. And I don't know that you have to fit. If you're going to fix this, you have to fix that. Because otherwise you're still inherently going to have this, because even you can even tell your driver, you don't want to use code words, right? You can even say to Bubba, like hypothetically, 20's behind you, big picture. And again, just whatever that means. It can be, hey, be smart, no caution, whatever, but like, I don't know how you're going to police that, you're going to be really careful about that. So until you have to do two things, one of two things. You either have to figure out how to kind of break up these large alliances under the manufacturer banners, which I don't know how you're going to do that, or you're going to have to change the playoff format and eliminate moments like this. But for reasons as we laid out last week on the show, this playoff format isn't going to change. And I will say, before the last 20 laps of this race or whatever it was, this was a damn good playoff race. And again, this underlined the fact of why this playoff format is so good, because you had Blaney and Elliott, and I'll throw Larson in there, and then you had Hamlin's great run from the back, which is going to get overlooked today. All these guys are going at it. The gloves are off. They're racing hard but clean, physical but clean, and they're going for the win. This was a byproduct of the playoff system, and it was fantastic to watch unfold. And it's not going to change. I'm sorry. This playoff format is here to stay. So I don't know how you fix this problem. I don't know. But to me, looking at from right now, it's one of those two things, and I don't see either changing.
Well, and again, I do think that this is one of those situations where this happened in the old format as well. And if there was a tight points race, even in the 10 race chase, or even if it was a season long format and there was a 10 race thing, you'd still have the potential for
go back to 2013. I mean, that's a perfect example.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, it was there, and it goes back even further than that. Like, it's been there.
So let me ask you this, Jordan. If you're NASCAR, then what do you do about the 23, the 3, and the 1? What do you need to send a message? Do you need to?
I guess if you want to send a message, I guess you issue fines. I mean, you're going to suspend the crew chiefs or whatever. But I mean, honestly, suspending the crew chiefs, I feel bad for them because they're effectively just delivering the message from above.
Well, it wasn't even that. I mean, he was just a spotter. A lot of chances saying,
whoever
hey, they're up by
but
one.
I'm going if you go look back at the precedent you laid with Custer, like they suspended the crew chief, however you want to do it, they're just delivering the messages from the higher ups, and Jeff. So I don't know what you do. I mean, if you're going to fine them, again, if I'm Chevrolet and I get the 1 and the 3 get fined, I'm happily writing that check. Like, cool, thanks, here you go, done, moving on. We're going for the championship because it worked. Like, I would take that trade-off any day. And I don't even know what that dollar amount is that would sting for Chevrolet. I do not have an answer to the problem, but it's a bigger picture thing that there is no straightforward, easy solution to fix this.
Well, it's going to be fascinating again to see all the talk this week. Again, this is very fresh in the moment right now. It's going to be fascinating to see what NASCAR decides or doesn't decide, what they say about the actions that have been taken, because, I mean, again, this is an integrity issue, credibility issue. And I feel like a lot of people, look, there's over 3,000 people live stream watching us right now, which has got to be some sort of a record. And the reason is because people feel strongly about this one way or the other. People are fired up. Some people feel ill about what they just watched, right? Like, you don't feel good about it.
Ill?
I think you feel sick about it. You're just like, oh man, that's not what we wanted to see. You looked at Byron and Bell's faces for those 27 minutes. The TV kept showing them. They're just standing there like they didn't feel good about it. They're not celebrating. That wasn't a happy moment the way all this went down. It's just like, man, this didn't feel good. It didn't feel like a legitimate, great sports moment to celebrate in any way. It was just like, man, you just come away with this for sort of a gross feeling. And I don't think that's what you want to spend all playoffs building up to this, all about who's going to make the championship for all year. We talk about this, and this is how it's decided. And you're like, damn, it just doesn't, leaves with you with a bad taste in your mouth. So we'll have to see what comes of it. It's again going to be fascinating. I do think that of all times for this to happen, I don't know if you know this, Jordan, but Tuesday's election day.
Oh,
and
so get your popcorn ready.
Imagine that NASCAR is able to, you usually talk about, when for the PR world, you have Friday news dumps, right? That people, you release news that will kind of get lost. Well, in this case, it would be an election day news dump potentially, right? Like whatever NASCAR comes out with.
Yeah, I mean, if NASCAR's smart, I'm just like friendly advice. NASCAR, I would wait until about probably 9:30 p.m. Eastern time to put this out.
Or even Wednesday. When the whole
Wednesday morning. Wednesday morning. Really, Wednesday morning.
The election's not going to get decided Tuesday night.
No,
anyway,
you're probably right. I'd say Wednesday morning. Like probably
whatever happens, we get totally. You guys, half of the people watching this might tune in, later in the week when Phoenix having, it'll be like, oh, wait, what happened? Was there any penalties? Like it's going to get so lost. So at least NASCAR has that going. Listen, before we move on, real quick to the rest of the championship four, how it played out, I did want to talk about just as long as we were on officiating. There was a moment. There was also not such a great moment when they were coming to the green flag, and TV says, "Whoa, hey, Kyle Busch's wheel just came off. Oh, the NASCAR is going to see this," and then they take the green. Yeah. They wave the green flag, and then NASCAR saw it. The wheel came off. Then they throw the caution, but they said because they had taken the green, that was a lead change. Ultimately, I guess that didn't.
It didn't matter, and because one of the most outraged drivers in that was Blaney, who lost, I think, 2 spots, and
Larson passed Byron,
yep.
And Byron made it anyway. Yep. So the benefactors of that moment, it didn't change the outcome of the playoffs, but that was still like oh my goodness, what is happening here? Why didn't they just revert to?
Because the green flag technically did come out, and so the green flag came out, and then the yellow flag came out, so there was a split second of green there. So anything that happens in that split second is, technically falls in that purview. What I have an issue with, and I think if I remember correctly, didn't we have this problem in the spring race here, where there was something that happened in turn 4,
and they didn't see it,
I had to, and I don't know enough about this, but I want to go back. I heard from people that the tire was out there longer. Why didn't you see? It was out there and no one saw it. And if that's the case, that's the bigger problem to me. I understand the green flag caution thing. I can explain that. But if the tire was out there longer and no one spotted it, that to me is the bigger issue.
I want to talk about this playoff field for the championship 4. So you've got Tyler Reddick, who wins his way in from Homestead, obviously, and that's somebody that was a regular season champion. So you could probably go, all right, well, that makes sense. But Tyler Reddick also was 7th in points in this round. Good thing he was locked in because he had a miserable day, finished 34th.
He didn't have a great playoff.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He was 7th in points. But yeah, I mean,
he didn't have a great playoff, with the exception of the Hail Mary last lap at the Homestead.
Right.
That's it.
That pulled him off the bottom. Now, 8th in points this round was Joey Logano. Joey Logano's last in points this round, but he won Vegas because he got the exact right timing on a caution and was able to stretch his fuel in a race that Christopher Bell was dominating. And Joey is not able to try that strategy if the caution is 2 laps either side. It just happened to be the exact right time, and he goes from the bottom to the top. So
and another lap, Bell wins that race, and guess what?
Right. Yeah. And so that you look at Bell, you look at Kyle Larson, who had 6 wins this year. All four Final Four drivers had 3 wins each, right? So Kyle Larson had 6 wins, double anybody else, double all the championship 4 drivers, and he's out. Christopher Bell, he's out. Just timing, luck, whatever. Denny Hamlin, he missed by how many points did he miss by? He ended up missing by 24 because of the new winner. So at least if you're Denny Hamlin, by the way, great run from all the way to the back.
So impressive.
All the way up to 5th.
So they called a great race. Fast race car, called a great race, executed, and they're going to leave here with a 5th place finish. And they honestly should feel really good about that. They should be really, really proud of themselves for fixing their car, starting in the back, having a horrible pit selection, by the way, and having to deal with everything that brings, where like their crew chief couldn't even see the car come in. And couldn't call them in properly, and they come out of here with a 5th place finish, and they were in the mix for a little bit.
I mean, that car was destroyed yesterday.
I couldn't believe it didn't go to backup. I was shocked by that. Like you see one of those, you sometimes see accidents, you're like, oh, that's definitely going to a backup. No, they fixed it.
Well, they didn't have one here.
No, I mean they have it at the shop. I mean, they could have.
I mean, we're close enough to Charlotte, but yeah, I mean, they repaired it. It was a fast car, and he worked his way up, but. At least what I was going to say is, he misses by 24 points because there was 3 winners this round. So Byron, the points leader of the round, gets the last spot. And, so Denny would have, the 10 playoff points that he lost with the engine penalty, plus the 4 regular season points, plus the 5 playoff points that he lost when Austin Dillon wrecked him.
Sure.
So 19 playoff points. He missed by 24 points. Now, maybe you could have said they called a different race if they were that close, but he didn't win this round. He still hasn't won since April, by the way.
Yeah.
Larson obviously didn't win this round. Bell didn't win this round. It's set up to where you had to win. And as good as these drivers were and as strong as they may be at Phoenix and as much of a favorites as it would have been to see all these guys go head to head, it turned out that you had to race your way in. You had to win your way in, or with like Byron, I mean, he had just solid enough. He's
been in a great playoff. He has been on it throughout the playoffs, and just they haven't had a bad result. They continually knock out top 5s, top 10s. They get a lot of stage points, and they did what they had to do today.
Yeah, I mean, he finished 6th, but
what I find fascinating about this is what do we talk about all year? We kind of had a list of guys, right? It was Bell, it was Byron, it was Larson, it was Hamlin. Earlier this year was Truex, but like those 4, Bell, Byron, Reddick, and Hamlin's like those are the 4 championship favorites. Like these are the guys. Like these are the guys. 3 of the 4 don't make it.
Yeah, and Chase Elliott as well. I mean, Chase Elliott really stepped up. When they had to
great round
today. I mean, who did he lead the most laps? Keselowski led the most laps, 170. But of the playoff drivers, Elliott led 129 laps, 5 different times. Looked like he had a great car, just not quite enough. Blaney wins by 2.5 seconds, 2.6 seconds, something like that. But I mean, Elliott brought it. He got close, but just not enough. I mean, they just didn't win enough this year. They didn't have enough playoff points. And
because won stages.
They didn't win.
He won stages. It caught up to them. Then the Las Vegas crash didn't help. That put him behind the 8 ball. And once you're there.
But even, I mean, Chase said he figured he was going to have to win anyway because of their lack of playoff points. I mean, even with a good day today, he still was 44 points behind Byron. So even without that crash, you still need points somewhere.
Yeah.
So
doesn't help.
It is crazy though. I mean, Blaney was 5th in points this round. So you had 3 drivers from below the top 4 in points launch their way in. So yeah, it's like, and again, like, I don't think this surprised anybody. Like everybody knew that this was going to be a very strong round and you're going to have to be pretty much perfect. But just the way it all went down, it's like, yeah, these are not the 4 obviously that I would have thought.
I mean, I distinctly remember somebody saying earlier this year, like Penske does this. This is what Penske does. They get in, they find a way. They get into the round, the last round, that round that the semifinal round sets up well for them. This is what they do. All right. I don't remember who that person was. So.
All right. Well, congrats. So who's your pick then to win the championship, Jordan?
Can I just say Team Penske?
No. You cannot just say Team Penske.
Why not?
No, you can't just say Team Penske.
Why? Can't change it.
No, pick a driver to win.
Hang on.
You can change your picks. I know we haven't even looked at the stats yet.
I gotta go look. I'm gonna look at the spring race.
You've got 1 Toyota, Tyler Reddick 2311, Joe Gibbs Racing shut out in the Final Four.
Shocking. Almost had Hendrick shut out.
Hendrick almost shut out.
That's crazy.
They get 1 driver in, William Byron, who obviously had an uneven summer, wasn't really challenging, and then you have 2 Penske cars, where after Ford didn't even win till a third of the way through the season or whatever. But
I'm gonna say Blaney.
Blaney goes back-to-back championships.
Blaney first time in this format. Blaney becomes the first driver in this format to go back-to-back. Finished 5th in the spring race here. Very good here. You look at Gateway, you look at Iowa. They've had speed on these kind of tracks. I'm gonna go Blaney. And last year he said the momentum from this win carried him through, and they rode that. I think he rides it again. And I know you're gonna yell at me again because you like to do that. But I will say I would not be at all shocked if Joey Logano wins this championship.
So I would think that I'm going to go with Reddick. Reddick actually led, I think, the second most laps in the Phoenix Spring Race.
68.
Okay. And he also, I believe he also led a chunk of laps at Loudon.
Yeah, and actually, that's what 68 was actually tied for the race high. With
Hamlin. Tied for the race high. Yep. And I just think that Toyota, in general, we've seen a lot of speed from them at those type of tracks. Sure. Now, obviously, to your point, Penske is going to be something to contend with. Hendrick, though, I think it was Cliff Daniels, and I can't remember when he said this. I need to go back to find the quote this week. But he was asked, I don't know, Vegas or somewhere like that at some point, and he basically said, we've been working on Phoenix since the Phoenix race last year, the championship race last year, as a company, because they were they realized, okay, we're behind and we need to get going on this. And so that's a huge point of emphasis. And you're going to have all of Hendrick emphasis and all of Hendrick brain power focused on one car.
Yeah.
In Hendrick's anniversary year, which they talked about all year, capping that off.
Sure, but I could also say that everyone in Toyota, whether it's Joe Gibbs Racing or it's 2311, is going to be focused on Reddick's car. Yes, everyone at Hendrick is going to be focused on Byron, but the same is going to be said at that. And I will say this, by the way, on a story you can read on The Athletic this week. I have talked to a lot of drivers and crew chiefs about the advantage of winning early. And I've said this before, but you go back to the last 8 years, 4 times in the last 8 years, the driver who's won the first race in the semifinal round has gone on to win the championship. And so I sat down with Paul Wolf at Homestead about this because they did it in 2022. Said, walk me through this. And he's like, and a lot of crew chiefs have said the same thing that I talked to. There's only so much you can really do with the car. And these teams, by the way, whether it's Penske or Hendrick or Gibbs, have so many people back at the shop that are dedicated. So it's not just the crew chief. They've been working on their Phoenix car for a long, long time. And there's only because of this era of the next gen car with the parts and pieces, there really isn't a lot of like fine tuning that you can do or find little things. So the cars are already largely built, right? And so what Paul said to me was really what he said from his perspective was strategy. It was like it allowed him to go and really look through his notes and kind of lay out things and analyze and say, okay, if this thing happens on this, this lap, we can do this. And it was really, he felt it was like a really advantage like that. He goes, in terms of the car and stuff like that, yeah, maybe, but really there's not, a lot. One of the things that Christopher Bell said, and I asked him about that, was he was like, I spent so much when he won last year at Homestead. He's like, I didn't even pay attention to Martinsville. I was like focused. Everything we were doing in the simulator was focused on Phoenix. And so it is inherently an advantage of like that. But then there's also guys like Ryan Blaney and who said, I don't think we win the championship if we don't win Martinsville because of the momentum that it carried through us. And we were so, we just rode that high. But then Cliff Daniels was like, it does allow you to, when you win early, it allows you guys to rest a little bit. Like it gives you just to kind of come down for a week. And then when you get into Phoenix, you're on this high and you're like all in because you feel refreshed. And so I don't know what I'm saying here, but this is, it does. I do think winning early is such an advantage. And these organizations have already been so prepared for Phoenix. I know what Cliff said about, hey, we're focused so much on Phoenix, but like, so is everybody. These cars have been built. There's really not much more they can do. And there's been a lot of smart people behind the scenes because there's so many people at these companies that are doing these things.
All right, Jordan, it's time to talk about the decision of the race. And this segment is sponsored by Safety Culture, the workplace operations platform giving teams what they need to get the job done quicker and improve every day. Safety Culture, a better way of working. Jordan, I don't know that there was one decision here, at least on the Blaney part of things, that made him a decision of the race. I mean, the decision, I guess, was whatever setup they have was a damn fast car, because you had even Alan Gustafson at one point, I think when Chase Elliott was leading, comes on and says, yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was on their second channel or their main channel, but he says, yeah, the 12 has the fastest car. And at that time, he was still had to have a long run to come up through there. But they brought a great piece. And if you think about it, too, like, the last couple weeks for Blaney, I mean, he easily could have won 2 in a row.
This is what they do.
And it is that time of year for them. Just super impressive. I don't know that it was one strategy call or something that got them up there, but they had a heck of a day.
They did this, but again, I don't mean to be redundant, but this is what Penske's does. And it's funny because we talked so much at the beginning of the year. Ford isn't winning races. Ford is so far behind. Oh my goodness, is Ford ever going to win? And not only have they won, they put more drivers in the playoffs than anybody else. They have 2 drivers competing for a championship. And I find that fascinating. And this is where they continually get better and better. My moment, if you will, the deciding factor, it's NASCAR's decision to make that call. That was a really tough call to make.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Really hard, really hard call to make. You have your 2 biggest teams, on opposite ends of the spectrum. You're going to hurt. One of them is going to be out of the playoffs. We know what that means financially. And they made the right call. They made the tough call. They could have swallowed the whistle or whatever. And I don't think they did in the Bell case. They made the obvious call. And to me, that was the moment of the race because it literally took somebody out of the playoffs and put somebody else in.
Again, whatever the decision was, whatever the end result was, I do think that Byron was the correct person to make it, in the sense of, again, he didn't do anything wrong in that situation, where you could say Bell rode the wall. You could say he was given a position. Either way, there was more sort of like guilt sort of on one end of the spectrum than the other. So I think by putting Byron as that driver, that was what I think that was the call. So yeah, I mean, obviously I don't expect everybody to agree. This is one of those, again, I cannot wait for every single podcast to come out this week. I'm going to be, as soon as each one drops in my feed, I'm going to be going through each one. Well, that's part of my work. I like to hear, get perspective of what's going on.
Must be nice.
You don't listen to all the podcasts each week?
I do, but I have a lot of other work going on. It takes priority sometimes.
All right. Well,
sorry.
You're just working so much harder than me. That
I didn't say that, but I'm glad you recognize it.
All right. Well, listen, safety culture is a workplace operations tool that gives teams what they need to get the job done quickly and improve every day. But what does that actually mean? Well, obviously, if you're part of a company, a business, a team, etc., efficiency is everything. No matter what you're trying to achieve, no one has time to waste. From construction sites to factory floors, safety culture is designed to drive improvements not just in safety, but broadly across quality and efficiency too. It's all about meeting higher standards by bringing the whole team onto one page, all from their mobile device. We know that Trackhouse Racing is not only a supporter of Shane Van Gisbergen's car, but they are a big believer in the Safety Culture app. They use Safety Culture's app to manage everything from pre-race inspections on the car to assembly checks and even in-house training, all on their very own operations platform. If you're a team leader, the Safety Culture app can help you get greater visibility across your whole operation so you can make confident decisions fast. If you work behind the scenes, Safety Culture can give you access to the knowledge and tools to ensure your success and help you make every second count. Are you ready to put your workplace in the pole position? Head to safetyculture.com/SVG. That's safetyculture.com/SVG. Well, Jordan, we can do the good race poll now. If you'd like to.
Sure.
I was able to win last week and get within one victory of avoiding the lemonade stand at Daytona. If for those of you who are not familiar, the loser of our bet this year has to run a lemonade stand in the fan zone during speed weeks at some point next year, next February. So this is obviously a very, very, very tricky one.
Mm-hmm.
I do think, on the plus side, I think it was the best Martinsville race in the next gen easily. Was that safe to say?
Oh yeah, fantastic. And can we talk about tires for a second? I thought the tires did good today. There was tire wear.
It wasn't exactly.
It wasn't, but you agree.
It was enough.
It was enough. We saw, and there was a difference between guys on fresh tires, discernibly a difference.
Yeah.
Between guys on fresh tires versus older tires. I all things considered,
it wasn't like dramatic. I mean, remember that one time when all those guys stayed out and they were able to mostly maintain their track position on pretty old tires.
Yeah, but I also saw guys on fresh tires blow by other guys who were on older tires. So I don't know.
And I don't think the cars were dirty.
Yeah, and I don't
rubber.
Yeah, this is a big step.
It was definitely an improvement. It definitely made a better race. It wasn't like this crazy dramatic thing. Jordan is now looking at the comments.
I'm sorry. I'm listening to. I'm listening. I care about what our listeners say.
We're doing this obviously on a YouTube live stream, and we can see the comments, and people are putting the comments in, and Jordan is leaning forward to look at what people are saying before he makes his guess. So
sorry, Pumpkin. I'm just looking at this here, trying to
Pumpkin.
Just trying to see what the.
All right, I really want to win this, but I don't know where to go with this because I do think there will be some sort of a penalty from some people about how the race finished. Like there is times when people penalize the race overall because they didn't like one element of it. So I think ultimately, when people wake up in the morning, they'll be like, that was a good race. I hate the, the controversy or whatever, but that was a good race. So I really don't know what to do here, but I'm going to go 82.
Okay. 82.1.
You're going higher.
Mm-hmm.
And why do you think it's going to be higher?
I thought it was going to be mid-80s, to be honest with you. I thought this was a terrific Martinsville race. You had a lot of different guys in the mix. You didn't know who was going to win. It came down to the end, racing hard. You had the physical racing that you like to see, shoving and pushing. And Blaney and Larson were going at it there for a minute there. Elliott and Blaney, raced hard for the lead. I thought it was a good race. You could pass cars. I mean, we didn't really, it wasn't easy today. We did hear some drivers complain about how it's hard to pass in dirty air, et cetera. But guys made moves. I mean, Blaney's a perfect example. The guy went from 9th on a restart and fell back a couple spots even, and then moved up and gradually picked his way through. And he won the race because he was better in the long run. That's what you want to see on a short track. So I think it was going to be mid-80s. But if you're going to go 82, I'm going to go 82.1.
This is perfect for me. I was hoping to go low enough that you would go higher, and give me all of the 70s, which you did.
Okay.
So now, again, I'm not prematurely celebrating here, because when sometimes I've been like very sure that I made you go in the wrong direction, but I really do actually feel like it's going to be in the 70s, and I was just trying to
and I felt like it was
room,
and I'm fine with that.
And you thought it was going to be higher?
I thought it was going to be in the mid 80s.
All right.
And I know people are going to complain. Maybe I'm not seeing it. I don't feel like there's a lot of people upset by the call to take Bell out of the playoffs, and like, oh my God, I can't believe NASCAR did this. Feels pretty clear cut from what little I have to go off of. It seems like people understand it. I don't think it's going to be the backlash that you maybe think it is.
Okay, interesting. All right, well, because I think a lot of people are pretty angry.
No, but I will just say, I'm yell at me again because it's what you do. But I'm looking at this, and there's a lot of numbers in the 80s here. I've seen a lot of people at 85. There's an 83 there. Yeah,
I love how like you in multiple conversations we had at the track this week, you were telling people how upset you were that I went 0.5 above your guess.
Oh yeah, all gloves are off of that pissed me. That was a cheap, selfish move. That's fine. You want to do that? That's fine.
And then you just went 0.1.
Yeah, I'm done now. I'm done being nice. The sportsmanship is done. That's fine. And if I got to call like team orders and have like a blockade, or have someone like, do whatever they can to give me a position on the last lap, to hell with it, I'm all for it.
So it sort of sounds like a situation where if somebody initiates contact at Martinsville, that opens the door for the hard racing, sort of like Chandler Smith and Cole Custer at the end of the Xfinity race. Now, for me, that situation, I think Cole Custer was perfectly within his right for what happened with Chandler Smith there.
Okay.
Chandler Smith made the bump first.
Sure.
And then Cole Custer, by the way, already kind of owed him from previous races.
Yeah.
And then said, you know what? We got a caution here. I'm going to line up right behind you, and I'm going to drive you right off into the corner. And obviously he did. Chandler Smith was obviously upset about it afterwards and gave him a smack, or whatever you want to call that. I don't think it was quite a punch, attempted punch.
Struck him with his hand.
Cole Custer was, there's pictures of him laughing at this.
Oh, it's very wrestling move. It was great. It was fantastic.
But Chandler Smith obviously got his point across. Cole Custer felt like he did what he had to do. That whole thing, I thought, was fair game. Didn't have a problem with it. But now we have the Xfinity Final Four. Who in Xfinity? Who were you? I mean, you kind of have two drivers who you probably would have thought were going to be there based on how they'd run all year, with Allgaier and Custer. Mm-hmm. And then you have Austin Hill and Allmendinger, who, you're like, well, there's kind of specialists, but they make it anyway. So who do you like for Xfinity Championship?
I like Justin Allgaier. I think he's really good at Phoenix, runs well there. Historically, I think he finally gets his long overdue Xfinity Series championship.
Wow, that'd be a heck of a story.
Good.
He is really good at Phoenix. So that could be something. But Cole Custer just figured out how to do it last year. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be surprised to see Cole Custer go back to back.
I wouldn't. I think it's a coin flip between those two.
I mean, just a lot of stuff seems to happen to Allgaier sometimes. As good of a story as it would be, even when they have a good car, things seem to go wrong at times. So, I don't know. But here's what I did have a problem with. As I say, I didn't have a problem with the Xfinity, how that went down. I did have more of a problem with how the Eckes Gray incident went down. By the way, so my friend Jordan here was obviously all over TV the other night. I was part of an 11.5-hour flight delay Friday, so I did not come to the track. I was watching this on my phone.
If you would have flown in the day early, you could have been here.
Oh, okay. Well, let me tell the airline that next time. Anyway, so I was watching from afar, and I see all this stuff go down. And, of course, I see Jordan Bianchi right in it. So, of course, I'm always giving Jordan crap because he always seems to find himself on TV just by coincidence. So I say, TV star, all this stuff. And Jordan says, I wasn't trying to be on TV.
I wasn't. I was just trying to do my job to the best that I can. And to do my job the best I can, I need to be as close as possible to the story. And that was Taylor Gray in that moment. And so I'm going to position myself to be there so I can witness everything that goes on journalistically and do my job.
I mean, our friend Bob was walking ahead of it, so
That's
he
fine.
was not.
Everybody's got a different way of doing theirs. Bob does.
Also, Bob as they're going up the stairs
Mm-hmm.
over to Victory Lane,
Yep.
following it. Guess what? Jordan's butt, like butted in, like literally. All you see is Jordan's butt on the camera. He cut the camera off. Mister, I'm not trying to be on TV. Knows this is on live TV. Knows this is the following
attention. One, glad I have my skinny jeans on. Two, based on the text messages I received, I think my butt looked good. So you're welcome, America, for that. Just all I can say. So what? I'll get you a pair of skinny jeans. People can talk about your
butt. Well, I
butt
do
too.
know that as a result, possibly of your jeans, you have now an injury.
Yeah, I got a scrape on me.
Going back over the stairs, you fell. This part was not on TV.
No, this part was not on TV.
I really wish this part was on TV. You fell so bad that you
tripped.
You cut your jeans open and cut your leg open.
A bloody gash. Bloody, but Herculean effort. Gutty, gritty effort by this intrepid journalist over here to keep doing his job, despite bloody, to ruin my jeans, by the way. They're bloody and they got a hole in them now. But yeah, I was going up over the stairs in this group of people. Someone caught my leg and I went down.
Someone caught your leg. You didn't just trip on your own, of course.
I tripped my own. And caught my leg and I tripped. I dragged my knee across these like jagged,
they're like sharp.
Yeah,
stairs,
and I dragged. I'm like, I keep going. I felt like I was gonna there's a split second there, like, oh hell, I'm gonna get like trampled. But quickly picked myself up, kept moving, didn't slow down, didn't show any pain. There's no pain for this guy. So
okay. So, but you witnessed that whole thing, and you don't think that there was any wrongdoing on the part of Christian Eckes from what you said?
This is short track racing. This is what Martinsville's about. And he didn't put him in the wall. He moved him out of the way. Now, you can talk about whether it was a smart move or not, because you just made an enemy. And you don't need any enemies going in the championship race at all. And you can talk about how is it more advantageous to have Taylor Gray in the championship than Ty Majeski? I would argue that it's actually worse to have Majeski in that race than Taylor Gray. And so, no, but the move itself, I don't like. It just the move itself was a racing move you see at Martinsville. You're going for the win. Somebody's in front of you. You race them hard. You move him on the way. He didn't put him in the wall. He didn't spin him out. He didn't do any of the dirty deeds. He just put the bumper to him. Isn't that what people want? That's old school classic NASCAR. We talk about it all the time when we come to these short tracks. Oh, we don't see those old, we want physicality. We want bumpers. We want guys, moving each other around like it used to be, like Earnhardt's day or, even before that. Like, that's what you got.
I think you're making a great point. And there's a lot of people that feel the same way you do. And there's a lot of relevance in that. Here's my issue with it. And you could, again, argue this is splitting hairs. I've seen plenty of responses to tweet that I made along these lines. And, whatever. So I get that this is not going to be universally accepted. But what I didn't like about it is that Taylor Gray had rightfully got himself up to that point on strategy on fresh tires. And he indicated with the way he was racing Eckes, I'm going to race you cleanly. Let's race this out. By his actions, he wanted to race it out. And as a reward, what he got was sent toward the wall and losing his chance at his first career win and at a championship, a berth at Phoenix. Where Eckes had basically decided, I've dominated this race. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to let anybody win this race. I'm not going to let you win this race. I'm not going to let Ben Rhodes win this race. Nobody's going to win this race. And I'm going to make sure it happens. Now, was it short-sighted? You could say yes. I actually think that he's protected by the way this format is, because if Taylor Gray tries anything at all at Phoenix, NASCAR is going to be like, you mess with a championship 4 driver. You cannot wreck a championship 4 driver or anything like that. They're not going to let that.
He said as much.
So his hands are sort of tied. And he even suggested in his interview, well, maybe, he's got to race me in Xfinity all year next year. But I'm sure Eckes doesn't really care. Right. And look, I see, Jesse Love on Twitter, I think his response was, how bad do you want it? So there's a lot of drivers, who look at this now and say, hey, you got to do what you got to do. I mean, even Eckes, in their conversation they're having that you had videoed and other videos, Taylor Gray saying, I raced you cleanly. I could have sent you multiple times. And
maybe
then
you
Eckes was basically like, I guess you should have.
Yeah.
But I hate that. I hate that. And, I agree with Mark Martin, where Mark Martin had tweeted, there's no more ethics in racing anymore. So I don't like that. I do remember that as much as you glorified, this is always beating and banging, this is Martinsville. At some point, somebody decided that Martinsville it's okay to just move people out without actually trying to race them. I still want to see people actually race it out. I still want to see, yes, it's a short track. Yes, there's contact, but how about until you absolutely have to, as a very last move, how about we actually see you race? How about actually we see your skill on display to respectful people? That's what made Homestead last week so amazing, is that Blaney didn't try to do anything dirty with Tyler Reddick. By the way, Blaney still made the championship anyway. What we saw was a great display of two drivers going for it, of talent, nobody roughing each other up, and it was thrilling because of it. I think that's possible at short tracks, but it's just I'm fine with bump and runs, but when you get to the point where you're moving somebody up and you're taking away their chance to win, yes, he didn't wreck him, and no, it wasn't illegal. I just didn't love it based on, again, if the door had been opened like Chandler Smith did to Custer, bumping him first, and you go, okay, now it's game on. That's part of the code.
Somebody's got to be the first one to open the door, and Christian Eckes did it, and he made sure that no one could come back. And like, I get it, and you can argue sportsmanship and this and that, but like, at the end of the day, it's like your job is to win. Your job is to go win a race, and if you need to move somebody, because the reality is, once Gray got in that lead on fresh tires, he probably was gone, and Eckes' shot to race him was probably gone. And so, like, that's your move. That is likely your only move, is then and there is to give him a nudge, and he did.
Well, I really think that allowing Majeski to make the championship instead of Gray, I'm picking Majeski to win it. I think Majeski on short tracks has been quite fearsome. And no, he hasn't dominated the season. He hasn't had the season that Eckes had by any stretch of imagination, or Heim. But to me, I'm looking at Majeski to win this thing. Who's your pick for the Chuck?
I'm gonna go Eckes. I mean, I know we talk a lot about Corey Heim, but Eckes has had a great, and almost overlooked to a point. But but he leads the series in wins, the laps led, everything else. Eckes is the pick. He wins these races. You can make a case for Heim. I think let's not overlook Grant Enfinger, by the way, who's come on really strong as well in this and has won on different tracks. But Eckes all year has been the dominant person in the Truck Series. I don't think that's going to stop at Phoenix.
All right, Jordan. First of all, is there anything from this weekend else that you wanted to touch on real quick? I have one more thing to talk about.
Go ahead, and I will check my list.
Well, I mean, we're not done. You're not done with me yet this weekend, because we have something else coming up tomorrow.
Yes. Tomorrow
we'll be in the courtroom.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow is the preliminary injunction hearing, where 2311 and Front Row Motorsports are asking a federal court, asking the judge to take out basically the clause in the charter agreement that basically they interpret as, hey, you cannot sue us for antitrust stuff if you sign this agreement. So they would like to sign the agreement so that they can go forward as race teams and have their charters and get paid for next year while this is still going on. But they want this clause to be taken out. So this is sort of a key moment here. This is the first big key moment.
Sure. First big domino.
Yes. And so we will be in court. We will not be Lisa Chanana in our live chat says, y'all better live tweet. We're not allowed to bring our phones or any electronic devices into the courtroom. So just to see Jordan separated from his phone. We
Bob too, by the way.
Bob separated from his phone. Oh my gosh. We went to this F1 thing, me and Jordan last year, this F1 party. And there was I can't remember what car brand it was.
Mercedes.
Was it a Mercedes thing?
Total was there.
There was like a secret car that you had to put your phone in one of these lock bags, and they had the lock on it. And we put our phones in the back, and so because you could get a look at this car, but they didn't want to take pictures of it, obviously, right? So Jordan and I are standing in line at this party thing, and we're, it's, I don't know, there's like 20 people in front of us, and it's kind of moving slow. We put our phones in this bag, and like both of our phones are buzzing within 30 seconds, and we cannot open the bag to see our phones. We don't know what notifications are coming in. We got out of line and went to the people who were like, we don't want to do this anymore. Can you unlock our phones, please?
I'm out.
So we're all going to be without our laptops, without our phones. We're going to be writing notepads.
How many notebooks are you bringing? I'm bringing 3.
3? I don't think I have 3. So
I'll help you out, buddy. I got you.
Okay, thank you. So
you're old school.
Yeah, tomorrow I'm going to wake up. I'm going to write my Martinsville takeaways for The Athletic. I'm going to go to DBC. I'm going to go to the courthouse, and I'm going to fly home because we've all got to fly to Phoenix on Wednesday morning.
Yeah, just a slow week. Just a slow week. And by the way, we might have penalties. Who knows? Maybe coming out.
Penalties.
Possibly. Potentially.
Oh, my gosh. Yes.
Just a slow week.
Wow. What an end of the season this is.
And by the way, one of the teams that's suing NASCAR is racing for the championship next week. And there's a possibility, there's a 1 in 4 shot that the team owners are on stage accepting the Cup Series championship from the people that they're suing, which was just delicious.
That would be a very NASCAR thing to happen.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be a very NASCAR thing to happen. So, all right. Well, so anything else that you want to discuss?
I got nothing. I think I covered it all. That's great.
Well, we had a lot of you on the live stream tonight. I'm sure a lot of people are listening. Again, I just have to say one more time, we were right after the race. I haven't heard anybody else's opinion. So maybe I'm going to be, by the end of the week, being like, man, why did I say some of that stuff? This is what I think for now. This is what I think in the moment. I'm just following my gut. Be interesting to hear what everybody else has to say. I don't pretend to say I'm right. My opinion is the only thing that matters. This is all there is.
Since when?
Okay. Anyway, so yeah.
That's literally what the show's about. It's literally you for an hour saying, I'm right, you're wrong. How dare you have a different opinion of me?
Oh, that's pretty good. All right. Anyway, you'll hear maybe a different opinion on Door Bumper Clear tomorrow when I'm on there with Brett, Freddie, and TJ. This has been the Teardown, everybody. Thanks as always for listening. We'll talk to you from Phoenix after the championship race on the Teardown. See you, everybody.